If a is equal to 2, what is the solution set of the equation above? Here is our equation above. And when they say the solution set, they mean what is the list of x values that make the equation above true. So based on the answers, we could have either 2 x values for x or just 1 value for x. So let's try to find that out. So what you want to do is, based on this equation here, is solve for x, and we want to get then what value for x makes that equation true. So what we want to do first is to change that a into a number. Well, they gave us a is equal to 2, so we can plug that in. Now, why did they actually just not put in the 2 and they made us get a variable and plug that in? Who knows? The SAT always tries to make our lives hard, but that shouldn't be really too bad because we know how to do that. We'll just plug in the 2 for them. Alright, so let's rewrite this. So we have x minus a, and it's the square root of that, is equal to x minus 4. Okay? Now, what you can do is you can square both sides, and when you square it, you will get rid of the square root, and you'll get x minus 2 is equal to x minus 4 squared. Now let's expand a little bit on the x minus 4 squared, because that is also equal to x minus 4 times x minus 4. Now what does that equal? Great question. So if we FOIL that, we'll see that we'll need to multiply x times x, then 4 times x, then x times negative 4, then negative 4 times negative 4. So let's see what that gives us. That'll give us x minus 2 is equal to x squared minus 4x minus 4x, right? Because we have negative 4 times x and x times negative 4. And then finally we'll have negative 4 times negative 4, which is plus 16. Okay? Now what we can do is we can actually just get rid of the x minus 2 on the left, bring it to the right, and then have it equal 0, and then we can solve for our x. So what we can do from there is add 2 to each side and subtract x from each side. So then what will we get? We'll get a 0 on the left, and that'll be equal to x squared. Now we have a combined negative 4x and negative 4x, which is negative 8x. But if you subtract x, or you're adding basically a negative x to that, you'll get a negative 9x. From there, we want to take care of the 16 plus 2, which is 18. Now you got to ask yourself, all right, if I want to factor this, okay, because then when I say factor it, I can get the values of x. What are two numbers that when I add, I'll get negative 9, and when I multiply, I'll get 18, positive 18? Well, that's just negative 3 and negative 6, right? So that is how you can construct your factor. You can do x minus 3 and x minus 6. Okay, so let's see what we can do from there, right? Because again, negative 3 plus negative 6 gives us negative 9, and negative 3 times negative 6 gives us positive 18. Now, this will tell us that one x value could be 3, and the other could be 6. But in order to make sure that that's true, we want to plug in both 3 and 6 into our x's in the equation above to make sure that both sides of the equation make sense. Okay, because sometimes things can get messed up when we are multiplying or when we are taking the square root of something, for example, or taking something to the second power. So let's try that. So if we do x is 3, right, then I will get, let me write it down here, 3 minus 2, take the radical of that, is equal to 3 minus 4. What does that say? So that's telling me we have the square root of 1, right? 3 minus 2 is 1, and that's equal to 3 minus 4 is 1. So the square root of, yes, okay, so the square root of 1 is equal to just 1, and 1 equals 1, okay? So that makes sense. Fine. Let's try x equals 6. Well, if x is 6, so here's 6 and here's 6, then we'll get 6 minus 2, which is 4. So the square root of 4 is equal to the square root of 4 for the other question, right? For the x minus 4. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So then radical 4 is 2. 2 is equal to 2. So that makes sense. Oh, and just caught myself right there. That should have been a negative 1, right? 3 minus 4 is negative 1. I have no idea how I missed that. But that is negative 1. So essentially here, it's saying that 1 is equal to negative 1, which doesn't make sense. So we can't use 3, but 6, right? Because once we plugged it in, we get 2 equals 2. 6 makes sense. So therefore, the solution set of the equation above is going to just be 6.